Hello, you are welcome. For today's lesson, we are going to look at formal letter or official letter. Then we will also consider the features of a formal letter and look at each of the features to know what exactly we are expected to do. We'll also have a question to guide us through. So when we say formal letter, they are letters or it's a letter written to the head or heads of institutions, organizations. Example, you can write a letter to the head teacher, you can write a letter to the managing director of a company, you can write a letter to the district chief executive of your area. So that is a formal letter. Okay, so these are some of the features we will be looking at. So for the features, we have the writer's address, we have the dates, we have recipient address, salutation, heading, body of letter in paragraphs, we have the subscription, the signature, and full name. All these are needed on formal letter. Okay, so let us look at the features one after the other. So the sender's address. So this is an example. The sender's address is written at the right hand corner, at the top right hand corner of the book or page you are using. And so I'm using the slanted form of address. So we have Methodist School Complex, Post Office Box 1224, Tema, 13 Fagge. So for the slanted address, realize that the date comes directly after the Methodist School Complex. So that is the slanted form. The date would have to come under the first writing of the address, the first thing you wrote. So we have that under the name of the school, which is your address. Assuming you were writing the straight form, that means that we are going to have the P.O. box, the post office box coming under the Methodist, then the Tema also follow that in that line, then the date. But for the slanted form, when you write the school, for the box number, you leave a small line just below the name of the institution, then the location, then the date. So the date comes directly after the first thing you wrote. So you also observe that we have punctuation marks. So we have decided to punctuate. So we are punctuating throughout. So we punctuate the Methodist School Complex using comma, Post Office Box 1224, comma, Tema. Then we put full stop. Then 13th August, comma, 2020, full stop. Now the next we look at is the recipient address. This is written at the left hand corner just below the sender's address, but this is moved to the left hand corner of the page or book you are using. So for that we assume we are writing a letter to the PTA chairman. So we have the chairman, Parent Teacher Association, Methodist School Complex, Post Office Box 1224, Tema. So this is the address for the recipient address. Then the next is the salutation. So the appropriate salutation to use is dear. So that is what we are using. So we are addressing a letter to a man, perhaps. So we are going to have dear sir, dear sir. Then you follow that with a comma. So this is written at the left hand corner of the page or book. You must note it should be followed with a comma. You follow that with a comma. Then another thing we look at is the heading or title. Now the heading is very important. We deduce the heading from the instruction given. So if we have a letter to write a letter to the head teacher telling him or her three problems worrying your school, so we can have a heading like problems facing the school, challenges of the school, things worrying the school. You also realize that we have written all this in block letters or in capital letters, and they are underlined. So that is what you do for formal letter. After the salutation, you write your heading or title and you underline them nicely. Underline it nicely. Then from there, move to the introduction. So the recipient, the one receiving the letter, should know a bit of what you are going to talk about. So the introduction, you only give a gist. Okay, the person should have an idea of what you are going to write. You may ask, what of the heading? At least, yes. The heading is just a brief of what you are going to really talk about. So for the introduction, you would want to tell the person why you are writing the letter. So we have an example here. Based on the instruction given, write a letter to your head teacher telling him or her three problems worrying your school or class. Okay, so we have, I commend you for the great work you are doing in the school in general. We are all hoping that your good work will pay off. Sir, there are some problems that must be addressed in the school. So realize that just before you ended the introduction, the person has told the recipient what exactly he is going to talk about. So for this introduction, it's one, the person is applauding the head teacher or is applauding the person for the good work done. Okay, then the second one, just under the introduction again, the person is now telling the person why he's writing the letter. So these are some of the points you would want to discuss in the body. So we have discipline among students, so lack of educational materials. We have sanitation, lack of infrastructural, etc. So let's look at some of the things. We have discipline among students. What do you want to talk about under discipline? Is it that the students don't respect? Is it that they take things for granted? Is it that they don't abide by the rules? If that's what you want to talk about, I want to say that discipline has reduced, okay, because students are not complying or because teachers are very lenient. That is how you can write briefly on that point, if that's what you want to talk about. We also have lack of educational materials or learning materials. Okay, as students, we know some of the learning materials. So you mentioned some of the things you think the school lacks. Sometimes it could be that the school doesn't really like those things you have, but it's not enough for everyone to use. So that is the challenge you want to talk about. So we have example maybe like the board, textbooks, and other things you think that would help learning in the school. Then we also have sanitation. So here you want to talk about maybe poor sanitation. Okay, is it that you don't have prefect in charge, or the litter bins are not enough, or you don't have dustbins at appropriate quarters where students or learners can drop litters into it when they need be? If that is the case, then that is what you talk about under the sanitation. So that will also take another paragraph. Then we also have lack of infrastructure. Okay, so the infrastructure I want to talk about, maybe the ICT laboratory, the sick bay or the science laboratory. Okay, so you would have to state why you think you need this, why you think it is necessary that the school has this, and that you would also mention its importance to students and what you suffer from in the absence of this infrastructural. Okay, so you emphasize on those things so that the one in charge, the one you are writing to, will know how desperate you need these things to make your learning run smoothly in the school. So this is an example. So for this we have another introduction. So I'm grateful for this opportunity given me to highlight on some problems in the school. So if that is an introduction, then you quickly want to go with the body, which begins with a paragraph linker. Firstly, there is a need to provide enough educational learning materials. So you cannot just end that point there. What are some of the learning materials? So you mentioned some of the learning materials, okay? Whether you don't have them at all or they are not enough, you mention those ones and state why you really need them. So you also continue that paragraph by introducing another linker. Also, the sanitation of the school is a major concern. There are litters all over the compound, making the whole place not conducive for students to learn. In addition to that, the litter bins, perhaps they are not enough, or the litter bins are all broken and new ones must be provided. Yes, you can also state that. Then lastly, one other thing which is worrying is lack of infrastructure in the school. Then you mention some of the infrastructure you lack, okay, and what you seek to gain from those things you think the school doesn't have. Okay, so when you finish writing all those points, there's be a nice way to end the essay. And so you can say that the following point discussed above, if worked on, will help improve the standard of the school. I would therefore be grateful if these issues are addressed. So that is a nice way of ending the letter. Then quickly, you would have to come with a subscription. Strictly use yours faithfully. Nothing apart from yours faithfully. Then you do that, follow that with a comma, then you sign your signature, then your full name. You write your full name below the signature. All right, so this is where we end our lesson. We have just been taken through the process of writing a letter and a formal letter, and we have seen the features of formal letter and how to go by it. So for your assignment, you have to write a letter to, we are using the question given here, write a letter to your head teacher telling him or her 3 problems worrying your school. 3 problems worrying your school. So this is where we'll end our lesson. Make sure you copy the notes into your notebooks and revise to prepare for exams. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.